It gets incredibly busy towards the end of the year, and every company is trying to release new products. And these are 4 from 3 sub-brands of We Knife Co. So we have 2 from Sencut in their budget line, 1 from Civivi, and then 1 from We Knife. And we haven't really had any from We Knife on this channel thus far. So we're going to talk about those and see if there are some gems that you might want to pick up in November of 2024. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first one we're going to talk about is a fixed blade from Sencut, their budget line, and this is called the TEXO. Now it is a sheep's foot slash Wharncliffe. I don't know, it's not exactly a Wharncliffe, but it is a sheep's foot blade shape. It is going to be in 9CR 18 MOV, which makes a lot of sense because you would want to have a little bit more corrosion resistance than something like D2 if you're going to put your hands directly on the steel. That all makes sense. This is going to be primarily a utility knife. That's what this is really going to be designed for. That being said, even though it has a very, very reasonable price of around $30, it's not going to be something I would personally pick up. I like to have a real substantial handle on my knife, even if that handle is small. And if I wanted a utility knife of this size or shape, I would actually carry a genuine utility knife, right? So I think that these, in theory, sound really cool, and they are for someone, I know, because people still buy them. They're just not going to be for me particularly. Also of note, because the shape on the back and the front tend to be a little bit similar, you're going to want to be careful when you put it back in the sheath to make sure it's in the correct orientation, because if you put it in backwards, you might have some issues. You'll know right away that you've done that, but just be aware that you need to know which side is up and down, and that's going to be helped by the jimping on the bottom side. Whereas jimping does show up on the back of the spine, okay? When it comes to the handle, it's going to be where your fingers are positioned. So just use some caution with this. If you do get one, make sure you're aware of which side the blade is on. Not for me per se, but I think it's cool that they're trying new things. Next up is the Draxor. Now this one immediately felt very familiar because the blade shape is quite similar to the Vosteed Gator and also the size of it. So this is a 3.7 inch blade. Very, 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 very good action. Actually a surprisingly comfortable handle. I thought that the cutouts for the G10 where they kind of took the top off like this might make it more comfortable, but thankfully that's not the case. It does have right or left hand options for the pocket clip, which have recessed screws. It has a forward finger choil if you do want to use one, which is great because it does have a big blade and you're going to want to potentially want to do that to get up at the front. Overall, a nice option for between $40 and $45. Don't have to say much more about this one. It is, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you know, you kind of move on. That's kind of the way it is with many of these budget knives, but they have executed it well. And if you like large knives, you might like this one. So the next one we're going to talk about is called the Placoid. So this knife, it reminds me a heck of a lot of a knife I already reviewed from Civivi. And that's because these are very similar in size. Obviously, they both have wood handles, different kinds of wood, and they have different Damascus patterns. They also have different blade grinds, but overall, I think it's a yin and yang kind of situation. You have a clip point, you have a drop point, you have a hollow grind, you have a flat grind. You have a couple of different changes to the handles. I definitely find that the new Placoid has a much more comfortable handle. That's my personal opinion. Both of these knives can be reversed, so right and left hand carry no problem whatsoever on either one. Now, one thing that I have to say that's a negative for this knife, and it will be true regardless of which version you have, is that it does not have a proper forward sharpening choil like this one does. I really am not sure why. When you close it, you can see that it definitely isn't touching anything. So I don't see a reason why you couldn't just hollow that out. Now, certainly I could do that myself, but it would mess up the finish, and it certainly would be very apparent that I had changed it. Small details these days. That's what it all comes down to with knives. It's all about the small details because there are so many great options out there. Civivi is, within Civivi, you can find a truly astonishing number of options, and this is just a great example of that. So depending on what you're looking for, they'll probably figure it out for you. But yeah, these two, both excellent, and I definitely like the new model. Now, I've had knives from WeKnife through Civivi and Sencut in the past, but I've never had something directly from their premium lineup. This knife is called the Archeozoic, and it is a truly spectacular work of art. We have, first and foremost, we have fat carbon scales, we have titanium bolster, and it is absolutely just a really different finish from anything I've ever seen. We have a, I believe, Damascus pivot collar, titanium like coverings pretty much everywhere, mill titanium pocket clip, and the frame lock is really interesting. It's kind of like tucked in rather than just going all the way out to the edge. And that means that there's not really much to accidentally depress if you kind of slip onto it. Now, as far as the blade is concerned, we have multiple different grinds. So we have a belt satin right here, and we have what's called a hand satin going this way. And the contrast is truly spectacular. Yikes, that is something special for sure. So you're paying a lot for the intangibles when you buy a knife like this. It's less about the materials and how those materials are actually put together, finished, and the overall product. And that's what you're getting here, something truly spectacular. Very, very large blade. This Archeozoic is no joke. They are definitely going for something hefty. The action is, well, it's very, very good, needless to say. So if you're in the market to check out some of their premium line, it might be worth it. I do think that my discount code that gives you 15% off does apply to WeKnife as well. I'm gonna have to check in on that, and future me will put it right here if it is or is not. But overall, I'm actually quite impressed with what we have available with WeKnife Co. This thing is nuts, and it goes well along with the other large blades that we've talked about. And in fact, it is actually slightly bigger than those knives, kissing up to that 4-inch blade length. So this is not one that I would recommend for everyone, nor is it something that is going to be budget friendly in any sense of the word. But if you are looking for something different, maybe this is for you. Let me know down in the comments what you think and whether this is a knife you would pick up yourself. This was actually a pretty cool showcase of the variety of things that are offered by WeKnife. Well, whether it's Sencut's budget line, Civivi, which is kind of in the mid-range, or WeKnife, which is kind of at the very, very tippy top. I'm curious to hear where you're sitting and what knives you are looking for. Let me know down in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for your time, and we'll talk again soon.